Good morning, everybody. It is me, Christy, and today we have another ArtSnacks unboxing to do. So I'm pretty excited about this. This is from the month of December, but unlike all of our other ArtSnacks unboxing, we're going to do something just a little bit different, which I think is going to make this a lot more interesting and a lot more fun. I've decided to make a drawing first and then use the supplies to fit this in whatever way that we can. So I think it's gonna be a little bit more challenging, a little bit more fun, and I'm very, very, very nervous and excited to try this out. So I drew this the other day and I wanted to draw a guy since it's been a while since I've drawn a guy. And I really liked how it came out. I really thought it was nice composition. I thought it was cute. I really like this little hummingbird that I added in here. And honestly, I was like, I don't know if I want to do this ArtSnacks video on this piece because it came out so well that I didn't want to mess it up with whatever supplies they give, because I don't even know what's in here. Like, it could be anything. But I realized that if I'm always scared to mess a piece up with my art supplies, I'll never get anything done. So we're just going to throw caution to the wind and we're going to paint it. If I was able to draw this guy, I'm sure I'll be able to draw another guy some other time. And I do think his eyes are a little bit too big, but that's besides the point. Anyways, I do want to let you guys know before we get started that he was drawn on Arch's hot press watercolor paper. It's 300 GSM, 140 pounds. And the reason I chose this paper was because, of course, I have no idea what supplies are in here. So I don't know if it's going to be watercolor. I don't know if it's going to be marker. I have no idea. It could be anything. So I wanted to use watercolor paper because if there is any like water activated medium in here, it would just be so much less hassle to have watercolor paper than like any other kind of paper. And then the reason I chose hot press was because if it is like a marker, there isn't a lot of grain in hot press paper. So I thought it won't be as difficult, or the marker won't just be sucked into the page as easily. And that probably isn't even right because this is still watercolor paper, but we're just gonna hope for the best that this paper was a good paper for whatever supplies they've given us. Contents are out of the box, and as I guess we could figure, because it was from the month of December, we do have a nice little candy cane as our candy for this month. I'll be honest with you guys, I kind of wanted to wait to do this video with this piece for the January box, just because I'm a little fearful that they're going to give us red and green supplies. And not that red and green supplies are impossible to work with, but this sweet baby boy looks like he would do well with a red and green color palette. I think not. So I'm a little bit nervous, I will be honest, but we're gonna set our menu to the side and we're just gonna get right to it and open it up and see what we got. So I have this open and I'm guessing I was wrong with the red and green color vibes. It looks like a lot of markers, which I'm gonna be honest, I'm a little bit nervous about. Let's look at our sticker for this month. Okay, so we have this nice black sticker. It's very doodly, it's very cute. Next we have this. And it looks like this is a Derwent Paint Pen, and it is in the color magenta. It's water soluble when wet, but permanent once dry. You can create a variety of unique effects with these pens. It's a 0.5 millimeter tip, and you can even get nice effects on dark paper. You'll find 2 colors in your box this month, so try out some blending techniques. Oh, we got 2, yes. So we have this magenta one, and then we have this terracotta one. So we have a nice reddish brown color and a nice purpley pink color, which I'll be honest with you, I am already fully nervous about what we're gonna try and do here today. But without further ado, let's go on to the next one. So next we have this Ecoline Brush Pen, and it is in the color Sepia Deep. And I'm going to see if I can find something on our menu. This pen is full of liquid watercolor. These pens deliver brilliant, transparent color that will liven up your artwork. Easily make precise lines or energetic strokes with a flexible yet sturdy nib. So I'm actually just gonna open this one right now. Okay, so we have this like felt tip nib, and it's a nice shape. It's a nice brush pen shape, which is what we're hoping for. And it looks nice and thin. I thought it would be a little bit thicker since this pen is kind of thick, but I kind of like the size of the nib itself. Next we have this, which is a Graphite B pen, twin tip alcohol-based marker. Let me get to the side. This says it is designed specifically for illustrators. The Graphite alcohol-based twin tip marker features a long, responsive brush nib and extra fine calibrated 0.5 millimeter nib. The bright ink can be refilled and comes in 96 different colors. Which one did you get? I got brown, which I'm not necessarily mad about, but it looks like we have a lot of brown, which is not a lot of variety, but I can always go for a good monochrome look. So let's just look at the tips. So this is our brush tip, which is a bit bigger than this Ecoline one, if you guys remember already. And then on the other side, we have our bullet nib, which is, wow, really nice small bullet nib, which is kind of cool because I didn't do any line work on this because since I already used my own pencil and I wasn't sure if they'd give us a pencil in this, I wanted to make sure that if they gave us a fine liner, I could use whatever fine liner came in the box. So this might be a good thing to use as a fine liner. I do think that color would be great as a fine liner, so that's exciting. Oh, we have another Ecoline Brush Pen. I'm so sorry, I should have realized this earlier. This one came in warm gray light, which is nice. Again, it looks like we're kind of being set up for a nice monochrome look, some browns with just different varying shades. Even though grays seem boring, sometimes grays are the best thing that you can get. And the last thing that we have is this, which is a Kuritake Zig Clean Color F double-ended marker. That's a bit of a mouthful, and I just read it here. I didn't read it on the barrel. Our menu tells us that this is perfect for quick sketches and illustrations. This marker features 2 different nibs, a fine 0.5mm and a large 1.2mm tip. The water-based dye ink can even be fanned out with a wet brush. Okay, so we have another water-based ink, so I assume that it dries permanent, but once it's wet you can kind of mix it around and do that kind of thing. And this is in this really pretty blue color. Does it say? Oh, and this is in the color light blue. So we have this tip, this little tip here, and we have this huge little tip here. Huge little tip, that's an oxymoron. These are kind of activated the same way as Posca colors, so you can shake it, there's a marble in there, and then you can pump it, and the tip looks a little bit different. It's definitely like, kind of reminds me of a fine liner, but it's activated the same way as a Posca pen, which I think is pretty neat. And I'll tell you what, I really like how these apply. They really do remind me of like Posca pens, but just with a really thin nib, which I think is really cool because I don't have that with my Poscas. So I kind of like this. Now I will say this might be decent paper for this, since this is thicker paper. It'll definitely hold up a little bit more paint than like regular paper would. So it might be okay. I still don't know yet that I chose the best paper for this. But again, I had no idea of knowing what supplies I was gonna get anyways. It says it's filled with liquid watercolor, but I will tell you, it already seemed like it was kind of eating the paper when I went in with the gray. So I'm just gonna kind of, so you guys can see live. So it looks a little bit uneven, but we're gonna let that dry and we're gonna see what happens to that before I make any judgment calls. I opened up this marker and it kind of splattered, so it's definitely juicy. It's definitely filled with a lot of ink, which is nice. I mean, that was annoying, but that's good to know, so that when I go into the final one, I'll open this a little bit further away so that I don't mess it up with this kind of ink splatter. Get these lines kind of close together just to see if they kind of like bleed in together. I don't know if it's actually bleeding that much. I don't actually see that it's like bleeding into itself the way I thought it would be. It's actually not doing as bad. I mean, it is kind of fuzzing out. Like the lines are kind of touching, but they're not really bleeding into each other. But they do kind of fuzz out. They're not like crisp lines. Like you can even see here, like on the edges, they're a little bit thicker where there's a little bit more ink. And I'm pretty sure that's just the nature of the paper. So what can I say? But this color and this color is very similar. This brown is a little bit lighter. It's also watercolor, so it is more transparent. And this one is just like a darker, deeper brown. So I'm just trying to think in my head how we're gonna kind of play around with these similar shades. Also, this is just a brush tip and I accidentally wrote 1.2mm. I was looking at the wrong thing on the menu, so we're just gonna ignore that. That wasn't actually the size, I'm sorry. That marker, I really like the color. It's really cute, it's very light. I think that's a fun marker to just kind of draw with, but I don't think that this is the best paper for it because it seems to be eating the ink and kind of making it lighter than I think it should be. Let me actually just take out my sketchbook real quick. It definitely feels smoother in the sketchbook, but I can't say that the color payoff is any different. And I'm hoping that this paper isn't just sucking up all the ink very quickly, because then this marker will die pretty fast. I hope that won't happen, but it might. That's just the nature of things. But it was smoother on here, but it looks like the color payoff is quite similar. So we got to prove that point. But I forgot that the menu told me that some of these things are water soluble, and I'm definitely going to take advantage of that. I already grabbed my paintbrush, my mixing tray, and some water because I'm going to take advantage of that for surezies, because if I can get different tones and different values, that's really going to help us out in the long run. That's really nice because this color is very dark, which it's beautiful, but it's very dark, but it's cool to know that we can get different shades of it. And then I'd love to see how the magenta works. And also, this was much smoother with the paintbrush than when it was with the marker. I think the marker was very rough, the texture of the marker, and that was kind of breaking into the paper. But being able to water it down and use the paintbrush is probably going to be our best bet so that we're not ripping up the paper. So we have a lot of reddish shades, but I am thinking that this might actually be a little bit of a lifesaver if we can kind of blend it with some of the other colors. So I'm gonna go ahead and try and draw it into our palette as well. And it's a very light blue, so it might be a bit too light to do what I want to do with it, but we'll see what we can do. And my question is alcohol water soluble? Because again, I would like to use this bullet nib as a fine liner, but since we're doing a lot of water medium, I need to know if I can use it as a fine liner first or if I have to go over at the end with it. So I'm gonna try where we originally drew with it and see what happens. Okay, so I don't know if you guys are seeing that, but it's not bleeding. That's pretty impressive. That's pretty nice, actually. That actually is really, really, really nice. What I think I wanna do is do the line work first and then go in and color. I don't know why, but that's kind of what I'm feeling like. So I'm gonna bring our guy back in here and move this to the side as a reference point. Okay, so I pretty much just finished the line work, and I will say that the bullet nib of this pen wasn't as thin as I'd prefer, so it was a little bit harder to get details and kind of show separation. Like this looks like a very flat line, and I'm not very fond of that. I'd like a little bit more thinness so that I could thicken up, but since it was kind of thick, I just kind of went over it with one standard line. Like it kind of reminded me of like a coloring book where all the lines are just like the same thickness. So I'm not too fond of that, but I'm kind of glad that I drew this as big as I did, because if I would have drawn a smaller picture, this would have been like impossible for me to use this as a fine liner. So kind of glad that I used this, because I don't know if I'm going to use it for anything else, but using it as a fine liner was perfect. And I like how dark it is, but it's not black. So pretty happy about that. So I think I'm actually going to stop there. I thought about going over the shirt with another layer of blue or even adding some texture, but I don't want to do that and mess it up, because I feel like the more you render, the more chance for mistakes to happen. So I like it right now, so I'm gonna keep it at that. And I did use every single one of the supplies that we got, and I'm pretty proud about that because I'll be honest with you, I really was super nervous when I swatched out the products, and I didn't know if I was gonna be able to pull it off and make it look human. At some point I thought it was gonna be too many browns and not enough white or yellow, but I was able to actually just lighten it up with water and make him have good skin tone. As you can see, it's obviously a very warm tone piece. Every single color that they gave me was pretty warm except for the blue, and even with the blue, since it was so light, it was hard to kind of cool down the shirt, which was something I was trying to do. But even though it is very warm, I think the colors are very cohesive, and I think it really works. Like, this looks like a really good color palette in my opinion, so really proud of that. Now I did go in with my own white with the Dr. P.H. Martin pen white, and just to add some highlights, just because I could have ended it where I did, but it was just a little bit too flat for my taste, so it didn't necessarily add anything specifically to it, but just some highlight, which I think is always nice to have in my pieces. So yeah, tell me what you guys thought about this challenge. Now, of course, this was very different, so tell me if you actually liked the idea of making a picture first and then using the supplies to go on top of whatever I made. I think I kind of want to do it again, just because I know usually when I wait to get the supplies, I have the bias of what will the supplies look good with, instead of just drawing something that I want to draw. And I think this was more of, I drew something I wanted to draw, and now I have to make the supplies work for it, which was more challenging, but I think it just made it more fun for me. So again, just tell me what you guys think in the comments below, and thank you guys so much for watching this video. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.